Okay, pause for just a second. What sounds right to you? Is it the news are good or the news is good? I'll give you 2 seconds. Got your answer? Well, if you said the news is good, boom, you just successfully navigated one of the most deceptively simple grammatical traps in the entire English language. But hey, if you tripped up, do not worry, because you were definitely not alone. Welcome to this explainer on Subject-Verb Agreement. Whether you're just aiming to write flawlessly in your daily emails, or maybe you're prepping for a massive, highly competitive exam like the UPSC, TOEFL, or IELTS, mastering these rules is absolutely crucial. It's basically a cheat code for success. Today, we're going to break down the actual mechanics behind why certain words pair together perfectly and why others just completely crash. By the end, you'll have the exact tools you need to ace any test and really elevate your spoken English. All right, let's dive right into this. We've got a structured roadmap today, breaking everything down into 5 easy buckets. We'll start with the core grammar rule, then navigating tricky pairs, followed by groups, amounts, and titles. After that, we'll tackle pronouns and sneaky nouns, and we'll wrap it all up with the ultimate memory test. So, let's jump straight into Section 1, the core grammar rule. Everything we're talking about today builds upon one absolute foundational truth of the English language, and that is subject-verb agreement. Basically, this is the rule stating that a verb absolutely must match its subject in number, meaning, singular or plural, as well as in person. I like to think of this matching process as a giant puzzle, or really the secret mechanism turning behind the scenes every single time you speak or write flawless English. If those gears don't align, the whole sentence just grinds to a total halt. Let's break down how this actually looks. Take a singular subject, like he. Because we're talking about just one person, the verb has to match, so we add an S, and it becomes plays. He plays football. Simple, right? But watch what happens when the subject shifts to plural, like they. Suddenly, the verb sheds that S and becomes play. They play football. As you'll see, third-person singular subjects almost always tack on that S or ES to the verb in the simple present tense, like she writes or the dog barks. That right there, that is your absolute golden rule. Okay, let's move on to Section 2, navigating tricky pairs. Now, this is where we enter the danger zone, because what's really interesting here is how the standard rule slams right into a very specific exception. Usually, when you join two subjects together with the word and, they become a plural package deal. Think about Ravi and Ronnie. That's 2 people, so we use the plural, our friends. But wait, look at the exception. Bread and butter is my breakfast. Now, why on earth is it is? Well, because in this context, bread and butter form a single united concept, one breakfast dish. Whenever 2 words refer to a single unit or even one person holding 2 titles, like saying the owner and manager is present, you're going to use a singular verb. All right, let's test your gut instincts with another tricky pair structure. I'm going to give you exactly 2 seconds to guess the correct verb here. Either Ravi or his friends is or are coming. Lock it in. So the really crucial point here is that when your subjects are joined by or, nor, either or neither nor, the verb actually doesn't care about both subjects. It's incredibly lazy. It literally just looks at the subject sitting right next to it. Since his friends is plural and it's parked right next to the verb, the correct answer is are coming. If we completely flip the sentence around to say either his friends or Ravi, the verb would look at Ravi, see one person, and become is coming. It is all about proximity. And here is another classic exam trap they absolutely love to throw at you. Take the phrase, one of the boys. Now, your brain naturally sees the plural word boys, but the actual subject is one, so it has to be one of the boys is absent. On the flip side, we have a number of students are absent. Why? Because the phrase a number of always acts as a plural. Oh, and here's a sneaky little bonus tip straight from our source material. If you swap out a and change it to the number of, it suddenly transforms into a singular. So you'd say the number of students is increasing. Wild, right? Let's keep this momentum going with Section 3, groups, amounts, and titles. Let's start with collective nouns, words like team, family, or committee. We usually treat these as singular because that entire group is acting together as one single block. So the team is winning. The same exact logic applies to amounts. When you're dealing with big chunks of distance, time, weight, or money, and you're thinking of them as one total amount, they are singular. Yes, 5 kilometers is technically plural in form, but it's just one unit of distance. Therefore, 5 kilometers is a long walk. And you apply that same logic right over to titles. The title of a book, a movie, a piece of art, it might be packed full of plural words, but at the end of the day, it is still just one title. The Chronicles of Narnia obviously ends in an S, but it's one single book series. So it takes a singular verb, is a famous series. The same rule applies to academic subjects, like mathematics or economics. Now, this brilliantly illustrates the one big exception when it comes to amounts, specifically when we're talking about fractions and percentages. When you use phrases like half of or 50% of, the verb completely shifts its loyalty based entirely on whatever noun comes right after the word of. So half of the singular cake is gone, but half of the plural students are absent. It's totally dependent on what you're cutting in half. Moving right along, let's hit section 4, pronouns and sneaky nouns. Let's talk about indefinite pronouns. Words like everyone, everybody, someone, nobody, each, every, either, and neither. I need you to just mentally lock these in right now. They are strictly, always 100% singular. I know, everyone feels like a giant packed stadium of people, but grammatically speaking, everyone is happy. Each student has a notebook. Absolutely no exceptions here. Now let's decode some incredibly sneaky nouns. First, you have words ending in S that totally look plural, like physics or news, but they are actually singular. Hence, the news is good. Then you have the plural-only nouns. These are things that naturally come in pairs, like scissors, jeans, or trousers. They always take a plural verb. My trousers are new. And finally, you have uncountable nouns that might look singular, like furniture, advice, or luggage. These guys always take a singular verb. Okay, before we hit the final test, let me point out one last major trap. Look at this sentence. The teacher, along with the students, was present. Notice that little phrase, along with? Expressions like along with, together with, or as well as are essentially grammatical smoke and mirrors. They do absolutely nothing to make the subject plural. The verb only cares about the main subject standing at the very front of the sentence. Here the main subject is the teacher, which is obviously singular. Therefore, our verb stays strictly singular, was present. All right, you've made it to section 5, the ultimate memory test. It is time to lock in your knowledge with a rapid-fire challenge. I'm going to read these 2 questions super quickly, and you have exactly 2 seconds to mentally lock in your answers. Ready? Let's go. Number 1, each student has or have a notebook. Number 2, mathematics is or are interesting. Lock it in. And here are the answers. Number 1 is each student has a notebook, because remember, words starting with each or every are strictly singular. And number 2 is mathematics is interesting, because subjects of study, even when they end in a sneaky S, are treated as a single unit. If you nailed both of those, fantastic job. You are literally rewiring your brain for perfect grammar. To really cement your new grammar superpowers for test day, I want to leave you with this powerful 5-rule memory trick pulled right from our source material. Number 1, singular subjects take singular verbs. Number 2, plural subjects take plural verbs. Number 3, subjects joined by and are usually plural. Number 4, when using or and nor, the verb always looks at the nearest subject. And number 5, words like everyone, each, and one are always singular. You've officially made it through the complete explainer on Subject-Verb Agreement. But look, understanding the rules is just step 1. Actually applying them is where the real magic happens. So I've got a challenge for you. Can you go down to the comments right now and write a really tricky sentence using the phrase as well as, making sure you use the exact correct verb based on what we just learned? Go test yourself, show off that new knowledge, and keep on learning. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.